Welcome to the Hardtech Podcast.
And everybody, welcome back to the Hardtech Podcast. I'm your host, DeAndre Harakas, with my usual suspect, Grant Chapman.
How's it going, everybody?
And today we've got a super exciting guest in Charles Brian Quinn. He's the CEO and founder of Greenzie. Greenzee's taken a super unique approach to autonomous mowing. I feel like whenever other people are zigging, they're zagging, and they have a really cool approach. He's an exited founder. Charles, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks, y'all.
Yeah, to kick things off, would love to just kind of get the origin story of, you ran a company before this, you had an exit, and then you decided to jump into the autonomous mowing world. Sort of what was that journey and that path?
Yeah, so I am unique in that I joined a venture studio, which I would love to talk to you guys more about that model. And the real story is kind of funny. I love starting things. I've been starting businesses ever since I was little, and I had was just serving on the board of a company I still owned, and I wanted to start a new company. So I came to my good friend and co-founder David Cummings, and I said to him, "Hey, I want to start a business." And I always have a list of 18 ideas, 17 of them which are silly and stink, but maybe one good one. So I came to him with this idea. It's this piece of software that I'd built repeatedly. I had previously done a professional services, and it's the software that we built in my company and then a company that we merged into. And it was sort of like air traffic control for professional services. And I never forget it. I was in the meeting with him, and I said, "Here's the one pager on it. Here's the market, and here's how we grow, and it's a growing market." And he turns to me and he says, "It's a great idea, but I have the perfect idea for you: outdoor robotics."
How hard could it be?
At the time, I was like, huh. I said, "First of all, you don't know anything." Is my good friend David, and I said, "You don't know anything about robotics." I was like, "I don't know anything about robotics," and I was like, "What do you like? Tell me more." I kind of laughed. I was like, "This is interesting," because he's done a lot of sales enablement and other thing like that. And he said, "I know you love automating things." He's been to my house. I automate everything in my house. Love automation. He knows I love building software. That's my superpower in building teams that build software. He knows I love doing it in the physical world.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the apps that we built in our previous company that I had owned was, the Toto toilet app, apps for Caterpillar, apps for the Navy, like Whirlpool, like things that like the app, in something, in the physical world, which I really love. And I love when software can touch the physical world. So he knew I knew enough about that to be dangerous. And he said, "Look, we've made some investments in the green industry, which is, the people who serve landscaping and lawn maintenance, and it's a massive industry, massive market." And he said, "I have this robo-mower at home, and I took it apart with my kid, and there's no software on it. Meanwhile, I just got this Tesla, and it's like getting better." He's like, "How come there's no Tesla for mowers?" And I was like, that's a good question. Why is there none? That evening I went home, and I think I stayed up all night researching ROS, the robotic operating system.
So this is great.
I went and found all the robo-mowers and was like, oh, maybe we should build another robo-mower. And so I got obsessed, and I got so obsessed with it, I was like, well, we have to start a company in this space. And so what was interesting about the venture studio model is we decided to start a company, outdoor robotics, something in the green industry. That was it. And so we shook hands and started the company, and I put in some money, he put in some money, and I can talk more about the venture studio model, but the genesis was something to help in the green industry and something in outdoor robotics. And the reason is because the venture studio has three things that they believe in. The first is team. They believe in the founder and the ability for that founder to attract talent.
Yep.
They believe in not a meme, which is means like there's a lot of companies build things that are vitamins, right?
Yep.
That are very good, and 10% better is something, but people don't buy 10% better. They buy painkillers.
Yep.
Right? If you have pain, like you will buy it, and then as soon as you have it, like there's no way you're giving it up. So we talk about getting in the path to revenue, reducing labor costs, other things. Like we knew it had to be that, and then stream. So team, stream, not a meme. That's the way you remember the things. And the stream would be, it has to be in a giant market. It has to be in something that's growing, like so that in 5 to 10 years you'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And so, outdoor robotics to us just felt like a big industry. And in the green industry, we knew the other thing we loved about it is that people answer the phone. Like I'm in software sales, and I know you guys are too. Professional services sales is very hard. If you call somebody, they're gonna be like, oh, it's another firm. But if you call somebody in the green industry, they pick up the phone. They're like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
And you're like,
do you need your lawn mowed?
yeah,
That's
you're
the thing
like,
is, that's how
yeah.
they get all their customers, is actually because their customers call them.
Totally. Yeah,
Right.
totally. So you answer the phone, you're looking for things that are solutions. And so anyway, I'll stop there because I could ramble forever. But the Genesis story is in a venture studio. And then what we did next was kind of fun. I mean, I basically sat in a phone room and just called every commercial landscaper, and they told me exactly what to build. So I'll stop there.
Oh, this is great.
That
Sure.
was fun.
And so, Grant, Charles starting in a startup studio, I know you've had this concept of a startup studio for Glassboard for a number of years. Like, what's your perspective on that three-pronged approach?
Yeah, no, I think the crazy part is that it reaffirms my thesis that it's all about the right executive, right? So Charles, they bet on you before they even had an idea or a problem to solve, and that was the thesis of that studio. And then you guys found the right problem to solve, and got the CEO excited about it. Which I couldn't tell how excited you were telling that story. There's no hint that you might really be obsessed with this problem, which is what you want. Which is so different than other studios that actually have companies come into them with a founder, with a problem to solve, with an idea, and they want to help someone go do it that wasn't able on their own to go raise capital, right? I just think that's such a backwards way of doing a studio, and 80% of the studios I talk to are that way. You apply, if I had an idea and had a small startup and I couldn't raise capital on my own, I'd apply to join the studio to go get help doing that. That doesn't make any sense to me because
and for a little bit more insider baseball on sort of the person, if I can toot my horn and theirs as well, the actual thing they look for is someone who's had some success but maybe has a chip on their shoulder, which is definitely me. I have had an exit, but
I'm still
let's
working.
just say that if I ever get a boat, I'm going to name it Never Satisfied 2, because I think it's a great name for a boat, because I'm never satisfied. And so it doesn't really matter what happens. I'm always going to be like, you know what? I wish we could have done that better.
Right.
And so I think that there's something that they look for in people that have had either success or mild form of it, or had a couple at bats and didn't. They actually have said, we like people who've had some failure, who next time are like, okay, yeah, I know exactly how I'm going to do this next time. Like, we're going to go bigger. So, the difference for me was too, I had an exit where I had the proceeds came to me, and that's great, right? Everybody would want that, but I didn't have one where everybody won. I had to go and give money to some of our top execs and stuff, whereas in venture, everybody gets to win.
Right.
And so that was kind of interesting, is that we got to try this. But yeah, there's other things they look for. The other fun one is that, and they experiment with other entrepreneurs in the studio, and I'll never forget it. They had a younger guy who didn't have a lot of experience, and I hope I'm not speaking poorly, but when I started, I was I hired somebody pretty instantly. I was like, and I remember the guy was like, "How did you do that?" And I was like, "What do you mean hired somebody?" I was like, "I just wrote up an offer letter, and I used the Atlanta Venture Studio letterhead
template. Yeah,
I just put their logo on the top and sent him an offer letter." And he's like, "But yeah, but how? Do you have to?" And I was like, "You just do it." And it was interesting because he's like, "Well, what if he doesn't work out?" And I was like, "Well, I'll just fire him."
And he's like, "What do you mean you're gonna fire him?"
Yeah, so it is interesting. You have to have done some of this before, which I think was fun for me. To going into the studio, it's great because I had, a salesperson, finance, marketing, and some product dev, a little bit of that. And so as a CEO, that's awesome because I'm used to just having a team of let's go, what is the next biggest challenge? Let's go fix that.
Right.
And there was plenty of dumb stuff I could have done. I could have set up the LLC and figured out a name and a logo, but we did none of that. None of that. So we didn't even have a name for the longest time.
I was going to say, so tell us about that story. So you lock yourself in a room and you just start calling every single landscaping company in the country, or what was that process like? And I think this is really good anecdotal advice for founders for sure.
It is, because no one chooses to do this first, and they all should.
Oh yeah, and it's tough too. The best book I've read on it is The Mom Test, which outlines the best way to do customer discovery. We've all read Eric Ries's Lean Startup and some of the customer discovery and how you do these landing pages and things. But at the end of the day, what we did was, there was a room, it was phone size, it literally was a phone booth. And so the easiest way to do it would be I just looked outside because landscaper trucks drive along, so I would see one and I would just write that down. And so there was a bunch of them that were like that. And then you could just obviously Google for them. And so I would just call them. And the very first thing I think I said was, "Hey, I'm a Georgia Tech student." I lied. And I said, "I'm researching robotics." Do you use it? Like, what's, and stuff like that. And the other one I got better with, like, open-ended questions. I'd be like, the thing that would get a call back, like if I did get a voicemail or the
Mm-hmm.
receptionist, is I would say, and I narrowed down as I would say, hey, I'm researching robotics or starting a company. I did say finally I was starting a company. I'm with a company that has robotics. We are doing it to reduce your overall cost of labor. If I said that thing, because that's what they would tell me,
That's the
that was their
problem
big
statement.
challenge,
Mm-hmm.
the problem statement, they would call me back instantly and be like, what do you got? They're like, I knew this was coming. They would say,
And they're probably
do you
skeptical.
have what it is? And I would be like, knew what was coming. And they go, you put an autopilot on my existing mowers, right? And I go,
Yes,
write
we
that
are.
down. Yes, we
I
are.
sure might be. You know
Yeah,
what?
I was like, oh no, we were going to build a robot, but he's like, oh, don't build a robot. He's like, he's like, I got, this brand behind me. You can see some mowers behind me if you're on
Yeah.
video, not on the podcast. I love this mower. My dealer helps me. I have loaners. I have mechanics who know how to fix this. They're like, do not build another robot. They're like, I want my existing mower to have self-driving autopilot. Just do that. So that's one of the things that we wrote down, and that's where we are now, right? That's what we do. So, but that was illuminating. Now, and again, for Hardtech too, it's kind of interesting because at some point you can't do a lot of, like, you know, landing pages, right? At
No,
some
no,
point
no.
the rubber meets the road,
you gotta
and you've
actually
got to
demo it.
build something. Yeah, you got to demo it. And so our early demos were kind of fun because we very mocked up everything. We retrofitted a mower and kind of had it half do what we wanted to.
And you have like a remote
brought
control
a
and a
bunch of
guy in a
people
box
out.
behind it with cameras driving it. Like
Sure.
this is our AI.
Sure.
His name's Kevin. He's over there in the truck, but like
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
autonomous.
Remote control. We did have it, go out and go straight and do a turn and come back. And and everybody was like, oh, this is amazing. Like, what if I could, draw the map by mowing it? And we're like, write that down.
Yep.
So, they told us exactly what to do, but they had to see it.
Well,
Right. So, the entire company is a lot of like these tests of like, what do we have to see to believe it? And we had to prove it. And, could we go to a manufacturer and then pitch this? And, that's been a lot of it.
what I'm hearing that's so powerful isn't that you set out to build this thing, that you were going to go write code or build hardware, and you also didn't tell people what they wanted. You were experienced enough to ask one or two clever questions and then shut up, which even I
Yes.
don't have enough patience to do most of the time. And this is so important for young and early founders to hear, or even experienced founders to do it better this time, is like active listening and decent question asking will trump being smart any day of the week.
Yes. Very open-ended questions.
Yeah.
My favorite one was like, if you could, what are your biggest challenges? And they would say things like traffic, uh, you know, uh, good quality leads. And they'd say finding labor,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd say, tell me more about that. And they're like, well, I got enough work, just can't find enough people to do it. And I was like, well, what kind of people? Just like dig in and say, okay, what if you had somebody who's super reliable that was always on, or, I mean, what if you had a robot?
Yeah.
And they'd be like, well, and you go through that stuff, and there is a little bit of like, that's why the mom test is really good. You talk a lot about leading the witness, because if you tell your mom, you're like, I'm building a vegan cupcake app, she's going to be like, honey, that's the best idea I've ever heard. But if you go to like a customer and you say it, they're like, would you pay $1 for a vegan cupcake app? They're like, no, but I would pay for somebody to solve this headache I have, right?
Right.
Of not finding enough people in my business to run it. And so that's where the mom test does a really good job.
Oh, I like that.
I think that something I just love that you did, that you're exactly right. You went out to customers. You did the customer, validation, but the validation really wasn't validation. It was just, let's figure out what your problem really, really is. And then we'll start to mold our solution around it. I think that oftentimes as founders who just have the idea, like Grant mentioned, and
Yeah.
launch the product, and now they're calling their customers, and that's when they come up against a lot of friction. Not that I'm sure you go through friction in any sales process, but you're kind of trying to fit a round peg into a square hole, and it just doesn't really work, but you have to kind of mold it and things. Finding that product market fit, I feel like, takes longer. Probably take a lot
Yeah.
more capital and iterations, because you started in a
Yes.
place that maybe you should have otherwise not started. You can eventually get there. I think oftentimes you get there, but it seems like just your natural intuition to get to product market fit through the conversation with the client ahead of building the product or even naming the company was super insightful, and clearly why the studio brought you in.
Right.
Yeah. And then, another fun story, and especially for hard tech listeners, would be when there is a product that has the complexity. Like, so they describe a product that is very hard to do. Like, there's no way I could go to an OEM and like build some magic retrofit kit that retrofits all their mowers, although
Right.
that is what they wanted. So what I did to them, our very first thing that we offered was very interesting. We went to the landscapers and I said, "Hey, pay me $1,000 a month." And this is before all the jokes about pre-revenue. We should have stayed pre-revenue, but I did it pretty instantly. And I said, "Pay me $1,000 a month, and I'll go mow a piece of property with my
for you.
prototypes that I
Yeah.
didn't quite have yet." And I said, "I'll mow as much as you want. I'll go be a sub for you. I'll be an OSHA contractor." And so I think they call this Wizard of Oz, or man behind the scenes, right? And so what we did was we bought a mower and we started retrofitting it and putting our tech on there. And we would go out to the field, and the first day we're out in the field and tapping on our laptops, like sitting on the deck of the mower,
Yep.
and we're like got cables running to it, and we're like, "Go." And it doesn't work, and we're like, "Ooh, okay, let's rethink this," like, or it takes off and
A
doesn't
million
work.
miles an hour in a crooked line. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And we're like, "Okay, take that back." And we're like, "Shoot, it's getting late. Let's just mow it manually." So, I'd have me and the guy I just hired, for however much we were paying him, and I'd be like, "All right, we're landscapers today. Like, you go sit
Yep.
in the truck, and I'll go mow manually because it was worked manually, and
And
we
you
would just
record all the
mow, and
data.
then we just get all the data, and then it wouldn't work, and then so the next day we'd be like, "Hey, we have another day to do it," or next week we'll try it again, or it's a big enough site where we had like half of it, so we do the other half. And so that's what we did for the first summer season, was like just eat our own dog food, and by the end we had it working. Hit enter and it would work, and then we would send them a report, which was a manually report that we compiled, but it basically showed them what it would be like if they had a robotic worker. Now that
Right.
customer is actually still with us and actually employs their own, and now they have a whole portal, and they order them from the dealer and they just spin them up, and so they don't even, all we know is that they're using it, and they're using it a lot and expanding a lot. But it is interesting to be like, they came from the prototype, man behind the middle, or man behind the curtain, version of that, to where we are now.
Yeah.
And
Which
that
is
was a very early on for hard tech. I think you have to do some of that, like that disbelief and like shoring up the things you can't do manually. Even Airbnb talks about this a lot. Like, what can you do manually now to, like, get the people to believe that the product will exist in a certain way, and then you just layer it.
Yeah, it's the Y Combinator quote. I just said this in a meeting in half an
Hmm.
hour. So DeAndre is going to tell me to quit saying this quote, but it's like at the beginning, do things that don't scale, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Go. Don't waste the time, effort, and energy
Yeah.
automating this thing that you know you will one day. Just go do it
Right.
all manually and test drive it with clients. People in software
Yes.
have done this for years. Before this was popular, people would literally sketch out web pages with pencils and
Yeah.
pens and paper and pitch them.
Yeah.
Today,
Yeah.
you
And
can
slide
use
them across the
yeah.
table.
And
Yeah.
hey, oh, you click that button. This is slide 6, and just keep sliding the fake
Hmm.
website to the other person.
Hmm.
Today, you can do this with Figma in 10 minutes and build a fake website
Yeah.
instantly, and then you can tell Figma to turn that into code that generates a real website, which is amazing. But in hardware, it's still really hard. So what you do
Yeah.
is you get cardboard and you cut it out. I'm like, hey, the box is going to be about this big. And you put it on the table,
Yeah.
and then you're like,
Yeah.
you're going to turn it on, and I'm going to tell you what happens. I'll pour the coffee for you.
Nah.
This is a coffee machine. The coffee's going to come out here just like this. Was that fast enough? Because you're sitting there timing
Right.
yourself. Oh, the internal brews is going, and you do these fake live demos with
Right.
potential customers or your client if you're a dev firm like me, and you're just doing this to elicit response. Did they
Yeah.
smile? Did they giggle? Was this the right time? Was this too slow? Are they impatient? And one of my favorite fallacies is it's better not to be too close to reality if you're not there, because uncanny valley sucks, right?
Interesting.
Either make
Yeah,
it
that
pretty
makes
decently
sense.
fake, or you got to fake it all the way, because clients
Yeah.
will get really upset in the middle. Ooh, this feels
Yeah,
not
that's fair.
quality enough. Like, no, I'll just make it out of cardboard then. They'll never judge me because we're just learning. And I think that's
Well,
such
right.
an
And like,
interesting thing that you
when you
did.
send them our first reports that we sent them, they were like, we don't really care about number of incidents or whatever. It's acreage. Like, if you
Acres
get
per
it
hour.
done, acreage per hour. Yep. And so like that's always been it's always front and center on there.
Yep.
Like we had all these ideas about, like, don't you want to see where they parked, and like, like all this other like data, and they're like, no, acres per hour.
Yep.
And so we're like, okay.
And like how many maintenance requests per month?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
another
that's fun.
another fantastic story, which again, like, you're just an example of like one of these best practices. DoorDash. If you think about the company, they're worth several $billions to this point.
Yeah.
The first DoorDash orders was a website that was DoorDash.com or whatever it was back in the day. And if you called this number, you called the founder of DoorDash.
And it was his cell phone in the car as he was delivering other
And
orders.
he was delivering other orders,
Nice.
which
I
is
love it.
fantastic. So that's just
You got to start small.
That's right. You have to
Even in
start
hard
small.
tech, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious, like, on the hard tech side of things, what's like the science or the really cool stuff behind the actual tech that you guys have now today live in the field for Greenzie?
Yeah, so I like to tell people that we're systems integrators. Like if you used to build a PC a long time ago, or maybe you still do, there's all these parts and they work great. There's robotics cameras that have been great. The self-driving car industry has been wonderful for our business. We do off-road autonomy. And so there's a ton of rugged, reliable sensors that work in industrial and warehouse and other things. We assemble them, right? And we certify them. They're part of our robotic ready program
Hmm.
that manufacturers now join, which by the way existed, but is something that again, like in the early days, we never had, right? And we had only one partner doing it with us, and we were retrofitting it. But now we have this robotic ready program, so the sensors all work with our software, and our software is the secret sauce that makes it all work. We're very good at outdoor coverage. We're very good at the mowing, and I believe in another thing that I very much believe in is you got to hyper specialize. And that's one thing that I've done in my previous companies. And I just feel like you got to know and be good at one thing. And that's how you get very big. And it's very counterintuitive because people think you have to be good at a lot of stuff to get big. But I believe in true hyper specialization, like saying no to a lot of things and just going. So we are very hyper focused right now on zero turn mowing, which is a big form of like almost all commercial
Yep,
mowers have
commercial
zero turn
mowers. Yep.
mowers. Yep, they're all behind us. We don't do push, we don't do robo, we don't do any of these others. We just do zero turns, and we're very good at it. We know exactly how to turn, and it does open us up to when we are ready. Like our customers are pulling us to say like, oh, the next one you got to automate is X or this
Right.
one. And I think that it also does give you an advantage when you do that hyper specialization. But I would say our special sauce is in software. Our software is phenomenal.
And so
It
so
does
breaking that up,
very good. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
I
outdoor
was saying,
coverage, outdoor planning, all that.
yeah, breaking that apart from like your secret sauce of software, one of the things that I love to dig into in connected devices, which autonomous mower is a connected device, you are taking physical input, processing, going to physical output, and that whole
Yep.
phrase of garbage in, garbage out matters, which is why you have your readiness program that you guys certify. What kinds of
Yes.
data do you have to have as a minima to get in? This is where I'm curious. Like, are you
Yeah.
like I have to have RTK, I have to have lidar, or what is your minimum barrier to entry, and then what does your Rolls Royce look like? As like the mowing companies will give you all the sensors that exist.
Yeah, so Grant, you can join our robotic ready program. For you, it's only $500,000. I'm teasing.
I love
But
this. Always be
the
pitching. Other
so
CEOs,
all
please
right,
hear.
there you go. So we at a minimum, we do have a couple of slides on this because I do enterprise sales to all the OEMs and I try and get them to join our program. But at a minimum, we need left wheel, right wheel control.
Hmm.
And that's actually pretty hard to do. Like, step number one is actually quite hard on a lot of these gas powered mowers, but we found some partners that have a drive by wire solution. Like most cars are drive by wire, mowers are not. Normally, if we walk over here, and we could probably do it if we have time, but if you open up the linkage when you do your handlebars to go left and right, to do
Yeah.
the wheels, there's a linkage that always goes down to the hydro pumps that do the wheel motor. And we have partnered with a firm called Hydrogear that offers a drive by wire system. So now we have drive by wire,
Yep.
which is awesome. On electrics, it's a lot easier. This one's behind me is electric. A lot of these are electric. That's actually a lot easier because it's a brushless motor, or a DC motor or some other form that we can
Yep.
get either CAN bus. So the A number one is we need left and right wheel. Now, if you notice, a lot of these motors behind me have caster wheels. So they just have some caster bias. So all you need is left and right wheel. To go
Yep.
forward, you go both the same way. To turn, it's a zero turn. So if you turn both wheels, you can spin.
Yep.
And so we need that at a minimum. And then we also need a wheel tick. So we need encoders. On electric, it's usually included. On gas, we add one, or we work with the manufacturer. We've got a couple of those, or you can do it at the motor level if you
Hmm.
can. If we have left and right wheel, and then we need the implement, which is called, we call it PTO, or power transmission on. It's the blades, right? The
Yep.
mower blades need to be able to turn that on. And then everything else is kind of gravy that we need on the mower. We would love engine off, e-kill, for safety.
Hmm.
We'd love brake up. All these other things are nice to haves, but we can do without them. And we've been able to sort of go up the ladder on sort of what we can provide. Recently, we've got an engine throttle, engine RPM, all these other blade deck height, all that stuff is all extra. At a minimum, we need that to control the mower. And then after that, you start talking about sensors. We make recommendations. They always ask us. So we've been very happy with, we keep experimenting with LiDAR, although LiDAR is a great technology. I really think it's suited to cars because of the nature of like the data that comes back. I'll go ahead and admit I'm in Elon's camp that it's the driving world has been, we do it with two eyes. So it is a vision problem. Like road signs are designed for
Right.
us, everything's designed for people with eyes. Us, there's no markings on the road that are LiDAR,
Friendly.
able, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is a solved problem. Like if we can do it, then you can obviously say that a robot could probably do it. Like, and in fact, maybe even better because we don't blink, right? And we have 360, so we can do it even better. We can be like, something's coming up behind me while something's coming up in front of me. So I am a big vision guy. So we don't use LiDAR, we use vision, we
Yep.
use stereo depth, we use RGB. And honestly, to be honest with you, outdoor autonomy is a little bit easier than off-road or the on-road,
Right.
because if we see something,
You can just
again,
stop.
our stuff, we stop. Yeah,
Yep.
you got it. We don't have to go around. We don't have to navigate construction people. If there are people in the area, sometimes we just say like stop.
Yep. You
Like,
hang
hey,
out.
you're not supposed to be mowing with people in the area anyway, right? So that gets rid of one of the big issues. People are like, does it hit things? And we're like, well, no. And you don't mow around people. Like people are like, what if kids are playing? You're like, what commercial landscaper who mows manually ever is mowing around
Yeah.
kids? Like you
Within
just don't do it,
within
right?
some number of feet of kids, whether it's 24 or 36
Yeah.
feet or whatever it is.
Yeah, there's standards for thrown objects, and also you just don't do it. Like think about it. Like if the kids come out in the playground, you're like, oh, I should have been here at 5 a.m. earlier, which is when they mow anyway,
Mm-hmm.
right? You don't mow at 2 p.m. when the kids are out, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, you
anyway,
don't.
I digress. You talked about sensors. We have a very specific ones that we recommend. We love the RealSense line from which is now spun out of Intel. We're excited about that. We've been a big partner of theirs. That D455 camera is awesome. D457s are great. They're outdoor rated. They work great, and they're easy to repair because these guys break them.
Yeah.
Like it's not a when these things, but like they'll go use a manual mower and smack into a tree and
Yep.
crack the lenses and
Or drop something
and
on it
they'll
and they're loading it in the trailer.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or submerge it in a lake, which happens.
I'm sure
It's
that's
better
never happened.
better the robot than a human, right? So
Yeah.
it's where a lot of the accidents and deaths actually happen in our industry. So we're happy to replace the mower, very easily. We just can't replace people, and that's sort of our ethos, right? Safety first.
Yeah. And so
But yeah, there's a lot of sensors that we do.
are the manufacturers putting those cameras on at the factory,
Mhm.
and then eventually
Yes.
someone's hiring your or buying your software? Or is this like I'm going to
Yeah.
go order this mower with Greenzie software from the factory? Like how is
Yeah.
that
So
done in your market?
yeah, it's a great question. So the way these mowers are built, if you look behind me, the tire on this mower behind me is a Kawasaki or a Continental
Mm-hmm.
tire. So the mower manufacturers are already doing a bit of assembling, right? They assemble parts. So we are just a supplier. We happen to supply software. So we have a hard drive, and we have a couple of other sensors that we recommend. And then what they also like is that we tell them, we're like, hey, you need this many sensors, this many cameras in this location, and then we need you to bend metal. And I don't know if you know, but every mower manufacturer loves bending metal.
Yes,
In
they
fact,
do.
one of them is named Metalcraft of Mayville because they're very good at it. And so they love building those mounts and things. And they already have procurement and sourcing people who order parts. And so when you give them to them and say, hey, here's the distributor, actually, and they go, you know what, we already work with this distributor.
Yeah, here's
We
your
already
shopping
have
cart.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And they say, great, we can already get better prices than you can because we already have an agreement with them. We're a $100 million manufacturer. So there's no reason we should buy it from you. Right. And so the only part they buy from us is a software. And so we sell them hard drives with licenses and they put them on and we help them. We, as part of our program at the factory, mowers go down a line and then they go to, an R line or whatever you want to
Mm-hmm.
call it. If each one has something different and then they're upfitted. So we don't do retrofitting. It's at the factory.
Right.
So
You're a
the
factory
license.
option.
That's right. So the software license is bought by the manufacturers, and then the end users basically activate it. So it's kind of like when you buy a Ford Blue Cruise,
Yep.
which is their self-driving. It's basically if you go into the menu option, it's provided by Mobileye. So we're basically the similar thing. Like we're the self-driving functionality on these mowers, which by the way they all are going to have. Right? How many cars have cruise control?
Right.
All
Or
of them,
adaptive
right? The
cruise
answer is
now,
all of
and
them.
it's
Mm-hmm.
Right.
more autopilot features are coming to more cars. Blue Cruise,
Exactly.
whatever.
So we're
Chevy
just
is.
doing that for these guys, and we're the easy button for them. That's in fact our main pitch for joining the Robotic Ready program and putting it on here is it's the easy button for you to offer it. And then the other thing is landscapers love it because their data and their maps all work across all these. So if you buy this one and you make all your maps, and then you're forced to go electric, you can buy a different mower that has Greenzie technology on it, or we call it Greenzie equipped mower, and then you can also use all those maps. It doesn't matter. You're not going to lose and be bought into sort of one OEM's deal and be locked in.
Exactly.
So everybody loves it. At least everybody, that's at least the way we designed it. Landscapers love it. OEMs like it. The ones who are doing it themselves probably don't like it, because we kind of fix a lot of those issues. Don't get them locked into that one vendor. But
Yeah.
Sure.
otherwise, it seems to be working pretty well.
That was going to be a question I have, and maybe you just kind of hinted at it. There's different autonomous mowing companies in the space. Some folks are going small. You have other companies like Scythe, for example, that are large. These large autonomous mowers. You've taken a completely different approach. So I'm curious, like, how are you seeing the market? What do you feel like is, obviously I'm sure you're biased, but just curious, like, what do you feel like is the right play with like autonomous mowing being really the future of what that is?
Yeah. So my competitors have it all right, and I'm pretty wrong. I'm just kidding. I'll tell you this: it's something I think about a lot. But there is a statement I will say for a hot take. We can talk about my competitors, and I'm okay using a little bit of brain power to think about them. But I have a theory that any time I spend thinking about competitors is a waste of time, and I should spend 2x that calling a customer and just asking how I can serve them better. So let's time it, and then after this call, I'm going to go call a customer
I love
and
that.
just ask them how I can serve them better. So I will think about my competitors for half a second, because it is worthwhile to do. But I think early on, and even now, I think that's my piece of advice that you didn't ask for, is that, like, I just think competitors, you, as long as you serve your customers and just listen to them, you're going to be fine. Scythe is a unique model, and I know those guys well, and we talk to them a lot, and we have similar customers, and we're doing something very similar. They have a different model where they said, let's build the mower from the ground up, which, by the way, when I wake up in the morning, some days I'm like, damn, we should have built this mower from the ground up, because we would have control over everything.
Yeah,
Like
all of your
everything.
headaches would be different headaches, but they wouldn't be the same ones you
Different
have
headaches. Exactly. And so, it's a unique model, right? If you can go from the ground up, you now you have full control. Like right now, early on, we had problems where we put the cameras in the front, and landscapers would like run into the machine and like shove it and bend them up, and now they're like miscalibrated, like shooting up high,
now.
and we're like, okay, that's not going to work. So whereas with them, they've got them in the machine. Like there's no retro, like not even we call it an aftermarket upfit, right? It's not even a retrofit. It's like
You
so
can't buy the
they do
mower
have
without the
that,
autonomy.
and yes, so they have that going for them. But on the downside is they now are competing with 27 different OEMs. They have to have brand recognition. Like people, when they demo this, they don't ask how it cuts, like because
Right.
they already
Or how
own a
reliable
right.
it is.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And and they also say, like, do you have dealers? And we say, yeah, we have 450. Like this dealer you already know. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh, well, that's great. I can order it from them. I can take it to them when it's broken. So we have different issues that they would also probably wake up and sort of say the same thing,
Well,
right?
What I call is like
And
it's like the Apple model. Your competitors
yes,
are building the hardware and the software to work together, and it probably creates some seamless experience that is good for some
correct.
people. But you're the
Yes.
Windows App Store. You're Microsoft Excel. You work on everyone's
Yeah.
stuff forever and always, right? Like, sure,
Yes.
it might
Good analogy.
you might have some more what I'll call friction because you have to make it available for everybody, but it just works more often. You can hit more markets. You can
Yes.
scale. I mean, still, no matter how popular as Apple has gotten, Windows has a way larger install base, right?
Yes.
And there's way more
Yeah.
Android phones, bought
Yeah.
every
In the
year
world,
than an
exactly.
iPhone.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So this is
Yeah.
And you guys are, that's a great analogy. I'm gonna steal that.
Please steal
and
that.
and you guys know that, like, also too, as the bigger you get, like, we're now going to these manufacturers and they're saying, hey, what do you want to build next? And we're
Right.
like, oh, okay, that's a good question, right? Like now we're hitting some of these things, like if we designed it like this from the ground up, now we got the best of both worlds because we were out in the industry and learned, and then we're able to do it. Yeah, so they're out there. There's also, like you mentioned, smaller machines, robo mowers. We actually count them as a different category. I use them at home. I love
hmm
them. I'm always buying the latest one. There's a new one on Kickstarter every month. It looks like, hopefully you guys haven't designed any of those, but for customers. But there's always a new robo mower that promises everything. That's an interesting market. Like we are very focused on landscapers,
Right.
Mhm.
and we've done the job. We still do the job. We were out mowing today. It's still a little hot from it. We do validation testing. We actually still are subs for our customers. So we are specifically for them. We aren't for homeowners. So a lot of people ask me, like, can I get one? And I'm like, what I'd prefer you to do is go to my customer, sign
And
up
hire
for
the
them, and
service.
let them use it.
That's right.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, so we're very focused on that, whereas I think other robomowers should be very focused on that. I think robomowers have a tough one because it actually is better for the person who does it to own it. Like it's not, there's no like way to like come out as a landscaper and drop it and then kind of sit and wait, for it to kind of robomow, right? It is really an install because of the slowness of it. Whereas ours is just like it's an extra crew member. And that's how we pitch
Mm-hmm.
it. It's a robotic worker that is already on your mower. And so you bring out your mower and you let it do it, and then you pipeline other stuff while you do it.
Right.
So there's a bunch of different ways of people tackling this. We call it supervised or semi-autonomous mowing. If you really like, we're on definitions, like we're not fully autonomous. Like the mowers that robo mowers you install are because they decide when to mow and what. I mean, not to get semantic, but if you really had a fully autonomous system, you would say, hey, I want to go to work, and the system would say, nah, you seem stressed out, I'm gonna take you to the beach. That's fully
Right.
autonomous, by the
Right.
way.
Well, and what's interesting is you got to what I'm going to call probably crawl, walk, run your performance.
Yes.
Right. You did
Yes.
start with just only being able to serve square patches that are relatively
Correct.
flat, and your
Correct.
clients would still buy it. Like
Yeah.
as Greenzie, your clients are going to mow that anyways. And during the time it's mowing the middle of the field that's flat and straight, I can go edge and weed whack and do the other things I do as lawn care. Whereas as a
Bingo.
robo mower, if I don't do the whole yard, I don't need to use a robo mower. I'm just going to go mow it.
Yeah. And it's funny, I sent one of our developers an early picture where we were having difficulty with a customer who kept trying to use it in like a tree filled area. And it actually wasn't even that bad. We kept saying like, can you just mow that giant area like right over here? And finally he was like, yeah, sure. He's like, and then I'll go mow the other. And now I was like, oh, this field was like would be easy for us to do, right? Like we can totally do that because we have avoidance and you can map the whole thing and you can
Mhm.
keep out zones or you just leave them in there and it'll just go around them. But we didn't have that in the beginning. And it could get stuck and like start up and like, but run. What was it? Walk, crawl,
Crawl, walk,
walk,
run.
run.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of that.
And it's it
And so
and
now we're just going after like we've been at 80, like we're the 80/20 rule at work. We just keep going after more bigger and bigger 80 percent rules. We're like, okay, what if we did this? They want it to do this, but like what if it's just 80% of it? And we just check the box and they're like, that's awesome. Let's keep going.
oh,
So
that's
now
awesome.
it's been really fun because now we are in some of these edge cases where the customers are like, what about this site? And we're like, that's a great site. That's very challenging. We can do it. And so now we bring it in. And the other thing that's very different about our company is that we work with these motor manufacturers, and it's crazy because we update our software every 2 weeks, and it blows their mind. Like,
So this is the
that it
Tesla
just gets
model.
better and better.
So we have a client, Hammerhead. They make bike computers, like a GPS for your bike, like
Yeah.
a Garmin competitor. And this is one of their strengths. And they've been on Android since the beginning. They send a software update every 2 weeks. This
Yeah.
is a community. This gets better every day. You don't
Yeah.
even, this is how they compete with someone like Garmin, who's like the 600-pound gorilla in
Yeah.
the room that's been here since the dawn of bike computers.
Yeah.
And it's just
Yeah.
so neat to see that you are stealing that same, you were so excited to share that ethos. And this is what Hardtech really is getting neat about, is we used to be a thing that shipped in a box as Hardtech. And the day you validated it and put it on the production line, that's as good as it ever was. And
Yep.
today, with the internet connection of everything, you can actually, as long as you build the hardware really good and really robust, the software can make
Yes.
it better and better and better and better.
Yeah, and even firmware updates, and and you can even, and I would not even get hung up on the hardware because you could do service bulletins and all kinds of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
But the hardware for sure, as long as it's good enough, the software can compensate for a lot, and that's really been fun.
So, Charles, you've dropped so many nuggets throughout this entire conversation for founders, starting from the very beginning to now. If you had to just kind of pick out some specific advice for a hard tech founder just getting started, maybe they're in a studio, maybe they're self-funded, maybe they're VC backed, what would be like your core pieces of advice as they're starting that journey?
Yeah, I'm not good at giving advice, but I can speak from experience, and I know you did ask me about this. So I would say one of the things that I think we did and that I I think that I did well was start asking for money and payment quickly. I think a lot of times people think that you have to have everything buttoned up. And, I personally think that like we offered like a form of professional services. We would mow lawns, way before we had the product. And I just think that that's super valuable. I don't think enough people do that. I think they think that they have to go off and solve some hard problem and have it all working. And what we did, I think, extremely well was go ask for money. and then and do it constantly. Like there's no shame in it. Like, hey, pay me to go do this. Would you pay me to do this? Like, and
How
if
much would
not,
you
like
pay me to go do
what
this?
how much would you pay me to do this? Right? And if they're good and they try, and like, and you say you'll do it, like they'll pay you. And I think there's a lot to be learned by doing it. I do think a lot of hard tech founders too sit in a lab. Like that's one of the things we early on like didn't do a lot of. Like I think the best location, like somebody did a poll the other day and like, where's the best place for a hard tech founder? And I jokingly, but not jokingly, I was real. I was like, at your customer. Like
Hmm.
I like they were like trying to talk about cities. They're like, where's the best place for a hard tech founder? Atlanta? Is it Boston? Is it, New York or Chicago? And I was like, it literally is at your customer. Like if you could find a way to start your company in your best customer's office, like do that.
I can't.
Like that's where you need to be.
I can't believe
And
you brought
we
that
joke
up.
about moving to Florida because there's a lot of mowing, but like for us, like I'm glad we're in Atlanta because there's a ton of mowing and we can get anywhere. Like it's a great place for us to be. It's like where our customers are. That's where we need to be.
I mean, Glassboard literally started in our client's office. We had a
Yeah,
client, there was an e-bike client that
bingo.
hired 3 individual, like Drew and I as a company and 2 other companies in a trench coat to build this product for him, and we were all doing different parts, and he
Love
offered
it.
all of us free office space to
Bingo.
get better access to his consultants. We all worked out of this one office together, and
Bingo.
we formed, banded together to form Glassboard, and we literally were forged in the office of our client.
Love it. Yeah.
That's so
The
fun.
the your culture and your ethos, and it's real hard to, I see a lot of stealth startups and I don't understand the concept. Like I just literally don't. I think when you do a stealth startup, like that it becomes your culture. And so as soon as you come out of stealth, it's really hard to get rid of that. Like a lot of times, like I would deal with stealth startups and I would be like, so how things go? And they'd be like, can't tell you. And I'd be like, well, what's going on? Like, how did you fix this issue? Like, can't tell you. And I'm like, okay, well, it's real hard to undo stealth. Like they even do it to their customers. The customers are like, hey, what's going on? They're like, well, we'll fix it. And it's like, we've been the opposite. We're like, hey, this is a big issue. Like, you're right. Like, what can we do to fix it? And like we're like, hey, here's all the data. Like, here's what we found. Like, and they're like, oh yeah, this is it. So, yeah, I don't know. I could keep dropping crazy nuggets, but because it's probably because I've done it wrong so many times, right?
Well, again,
Absolutely.
it's the best way to learn is to do it wrong yourself because you'll never forget the lesson. The next best way to learn
Hmm.
is listen to other people tell you about all the bruises they've gotten.
Yeah. So then you can remember when you do it yourself. You can be like, I shouldn't have done that.
Yep.
Build
Heard
in
it on the deep
public,
tech.
build with your customers. Everybody,
Yeah.
this is the Hardtech Podcast. I'm your host, DeAndre Harakas, with my co host, Grant Chapman. Charles, thank you so much for being on the show.